Let's move over to safety, Dalton. Probably the weakest position, maybe in the entire draft, I would say. And I'm really curious to see how you stack up the top 5, because I think there is a lot of names that you could put in the top 5, and it wouldn't be crazy. Who were your top 5 safeties in this year's draft?
This was hard. This was the hardest part, just top to bottom by far, except for the very top. I think everybody's agreeing on number 1. But we'll start at 5. I went Jaden Hicks out of Washington State, 5, and this was really tight. This was either going to be for me Hicks or Cam Kinchins from Miami. But I went with Hicks. I went big frame, 6'3", right around I think 215, 220. Big hitting box safety. I think if you are a Jaden Hicks fan, you think he can be something like Cam Chancellor. Just big hitter. Honestly, I think the majority of his snaps this year came more at linebacker. He's like kind of that hybrid linebacker, strong safety, run support, curl flat kind of player that I could totally see like a Dan Quinn at Washington looking at. I think he's used a lot of those hybrid guys the last couple of years in Dallas. I would put him back there free for sure. He's more of a long strider than like a quickness kind of guy. His change of direction kind of gives me some pause. He'll make the plays in front of him, and he's a big hitter. But I went Jaden Hicks on the traits over Cam Kinchins at 5. 4, I'll tell you what, I didn't watch a whole lot of tape on him. I didn't watch a whole lot of Texas Tech during the season. But Dadrion Taylor-Demerson, man, this dude's a pinball. Like, I talked about Arnold playing with a reckless abandon. He makes Terran Arnold look soft. This guy is to borderline reckless. He's so aggressive, and also like he's just got this weird ability in the slot. He could honestly play slot corner in the league. He makes some super athletic plays in press coverage in the slot, and then he can run down balls free. Like, he's really versatile and really aggressive. I think sometimes the aggression can work against him because he wants to see his first read and just take off and just pinball. I mean, I'm telling you, like, his just entire level of aggression is different maybe than any player in this draft. Excuse me. I see some versatility. I see athleticism, and I would rather, on defense especially, take an aggressive guy like this and try to reel him back in than try to make a guy work up to a level of physicality. And I think Taylor-Demerson, actually, I was really impressed with what I saw from him. 3 is Kalen Bullock from USC, kind of the anti-Taylor-Demerson. Single high, wants to sit back there and find the football, right? I think, and there's productive players like this, right? Excellent hands, excellent range, pure free safety. Quandre Diggs, Juan Thornhill, Malik Hooker, those are all the guys I think of. They want to sit back there and watch the football, and when it goes deep, they want to break on it and make interceptions. He doesn't. I almost put him number 2, but he gives me so little in run support that it was hard for me knowing that Kalen Bullock's really good at one thing and one thing only, and that's playing center field, right? But I do like him a lot. I think in the right defense, he can play that same role as like a Quandre Diggs has for Seattle for a long time. 2, I have Javon Bullard, and he really only moved to safety this year. Before this year was a pure nickel corner. This year more of a hybrid, but proving he could play at least a deep half and make plays on the ball while still being, good enough in coverage and aggressive enough to make plays on the ball either way. The more I watched him, the more I thought of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Aggressive, at times reckless, at times overrunning things, but the plays on the ball are worth it enough for him to be productive. Another guy, Gardner-Johnson, pure slot, the last couple years moved to safety. Bullard's obviously done it earlier in the process. But that's kind of the name that kept popping into my head when I was watching him as like combo guy who can play both roles well. And then number 1's obvious. It's Tyler Nubin. He was best safety in college football this year. I believe in the top 10 in 2022. Fundamentally sound in all facets. Probably fits better in a 2-high thing because Minnesota played a lot of quarters. I could see the Bills. I know there's a lot of talk about receiver. I could see the Bills taking him at 28 because they got a hole at safety too. They got a lot of holes everywhere, to be honest with you. Nubin is just, I think, as fundamentally sound a football player at this position as there is in this class. I think he's the safest one, well-rounded, good cover, good run D, just gives you a little bit of everything you want in a starting safety.
Yeah, I think the number one is pretty easy, but I'll start off with my number 5 guys. Actually, so we actually, in a wide open safety class, we actually have 4 players in the exact same spot. We just have one player that's different. I have Jaden Hicks from Washington State. I think you mentioned it really well. He's an excellent tackler. If you want him as a strong safety, man, I think that is the route for him to have a very successful NFL career. There's some deficiencies that I don't love in coverage and sometimes where he gets beat, but I like Jaden Hicks a lot, and I think he showed some good stuff on tape, especially as a downhill player, as a strong safety. So if you're looking for a strong safety, man, that is where I'm looking for Jaden Hicks. I think, again, a little over aggressive, and I think his man coverage ability is inconsistent, but I think he's a guy that if you want a downhill player, he's the guy I'm probably looking at first. Number 4, I actually have Cameron Kitchens from Miami. Now, I will say he was an elite safety, maybe the best in the country as a sophomore in 2022. Kind of had a down year this past season, was battling injuries as well. Still a great player in coverage, still a center fielder that you like at free safety. He had 12 interceptions in the past 2 years, so he's a very great ball skills. But you hear that, you hear the center fielder and the 12 interceptions, you think, oh, he's a really athletic player. Really not. I think it's more about his anticipation than anything else, because he actually tested out, man. He had a horrible combine. Like, almost like at the point where, like, man, if you knew these are the numbers you're going to post, I would have faked an injury or something and just not work out, because, like, that really hurt him, I think. He ran a 4.65 40-yard dash, which is 18th percentile for safeties, and it was slower than Cedric Johnson, who's an Ole Miss edge defender, 60 pounds heavier than Cameron Kitchens, and he ran a faster 40 than he did. Also, Cam Kitchens had a 9'2" broad jump, which is the 3rd worst by a safety since they started tracking in 1999. So horrible combine. In fact, a shockingly bad combine from Cameron Kitchens, who I actually thought was at least an above average athlete, and he tested out as a 24th percentile athlete. So that, I think, really hurt his stock from being entering the year a projected first-round pick, and now he's going to be a third-round pick probably. But I still think there's enough there as a center fielder to bet on long-term. Another guy a lot in the same mold is Kalen Bullock from USC. But way better athlete than Cam Kitchens, but way worse as a run defender. I mean, he is a liability as a run defender. He's a liability as a tackler. If you want to go back to that Utah Pac-12 championship game a couple years ago, they were targeting him, man. They were just trying to get him in space because he could not tackle anyone. So he is a really special player in coverage and makes some unbelievable plays as a center field player at free safety. But man, he's got to get stronger, and he's got to be able to tackle better and wrap up better, because it is truly pretty bad right now. Number 2, I got Javon Bullard from Georgia, same as you. Really, I like his slot versatility a lot. I like the C.J. Gardner-Johnson shout-out you had, because I think that's kind of the role you envision him playing, where he could play safety for you if you want, he could play in the slot for you as well. Been a really productive player for Georgia at both those areas. I like Javon Bullard a lot for that versatility, so I have him at number 2. And then easily number 1 is Tyler Nubin from Minnesota. You mentioned it, best safety in college football this past year, athletic enough player, made some great plays in coverage, made some really good plays as a run defender as well. Tyler Nubin's pretty easily the number 1 safety for me in the 2024 NFL draft. So who is the sleeper, Dalton, that you want to shout out in this draft?
He's a guy we talked about during the season a good amount. Ketan Oladapo from Oregon State. I believe over the last 3 years, he's the highest graded safety in the country, or at least in this class, but it might be in the country. First of all, he's a heat-seeking missile in the run game. I think he's much closer to Jaden Hicks in the run game than people think. He's a big hitter. Also, very versatile. Can play back free a little bit. Probably better in a deep half or in quarters. And plays in the slot a good amount. The questions for Oladapo for me would be in coverage. It's just his eye discipline, like between stepping up hard on play action and kind of seeing concepts that are coming towards him from the other side of the field. I think if his eyes got a lot better than they are right now, physically, I think he's as gifted as just about every safety in this class. And if nothing else, he's going to be kind of a sub-package hybrid guy and a lot of special teams in there. But I saw the 2 guys I kind of thought about were 2 guys from last year when I watched Oladapo are Shamari Connor, who's with the Chiefs now, and Anthony Johnson, who's with the Packers. I think he's kind of a mix between those 2 guys. Is like he's got Johnson's aggressiveness and Connor's versatility, and I think none of those guys you would ask to go back single high like that. but I think that he could handle a deep half, and he can handle all of the in-the-box responsibilities if his eye discipline just gets a little better in the passing game. I think Oladapo's definitely worth a flyer.
Yeah, the guy I want to shout out, who's kind of like a appetizer for what we're going to get next year in Travis Hunter in terms of like, oh, what is he, a corner or wide receiver? It's Sione Vaki from Utah, who I think he's going to play defense long term. He actually did an interview with Connor Rogers, who works for us at PFF on the NFL Stock Exchange channel, which you check out. I think it's the best NFL draft podcast out there. He actually interviewed Sione Vaki, and Vaki, he asked him, would you rather play? He said, I'd rather be a defensive player. Smart. Honestly, smart. Longer career, more money as well, so it makes sense for him to say that. But yeah, he's a guy I really like at safety. And also, man, if you need a running back in a pinch, he was awesome at running. What do you have, like a 95 rushing grade this past year or something like that? I gotta look it up exactly.
He was good for sure.
Dude, it's insane what he did at running back. 'Cause I know Utah was really, I mean, they had so many injuries offensively last year, and they're like, hey, man, we need something from you. Yeah, 94 offensive grade last year, 93.1 receiving grade, 88.7 rushing grade. I still think he's a safety long term. I like him a lot in the box and in the slot. His hips are a little stiff. Change of direction is not great. So you don't really want him as a deep free safety because I think that's where he can get exposed. But you put him in the box, man, he's a physical player. And he can also play a little bit in the slot as well. The PFF draft guide, which you can find at PFF.com, Trevor Sycamore put it together, did an excellent job. His player comp is perfect, Dalton, I think. It's Shaq Thompson, who played more linebacker in the NFL for the Carolina Panthers. But he was kind of a safety at Washington. And also, if you remember, he played some running back for the Huskies as well. He was a really productive running back. So I kind of love that comp as a guy who could play running back and safety. And maybe, I mean, even with some of the deficiencies he has as a free safety, maybe even put Vaki at linebacker. Now he is very, very small to play linebacker. He's 5'11", 210. So he probably can't do that full time. But you put him in the box, man, as a strong safety, put him as a slot corner. I like that. And also, again, you have the added bonus that he can play running back and probably do it at a pretty good level if you want as well, if you really need it in your locker room. So Sione Vaki is the guy that I wanted to shout out.